Alexander Fleming was born on August 6, 1881, at Lockfield Farm near Darvel in Ayrshire, Scotland, into a modest farming family, the seventh of 8 children of Hugh Fleming and Grace Morton, and his early life was shaped by both rural simplicity and the resilience of the Scottish countryside. He received his early education at Loudon Moor School and later Darvel School, before moving on to Kilmarnock Academy, eventually securing a scholarship to London where he attended the Royal Polytechnic Institution, later pursuing medicine at St. Mary's Hospital Medical School at the University of London, graduating with distinction in 1906, and during his student years he showed an exceptional aptitude for research, eventually joining the bacteriology department under Sir Almroth Wright, a pioneer in immunology and vaccine therapy. Fleming initially made significant contributions during World War I as a captain in the Army Medical Corps, where he worked in battlefield hospitals in France and was appalled by the high mortality rate caused by infected wounds. This experience convincing him of the urgent need for better antiseptics and driving his interest in antimicrobial agents, leading him to discover lysozyme in 1922, an enzyme found in bodily secretions like tears and saliva that could break down bacterial cell walls. Though it was only mildly effective, yet this was an important step in bacteriology. His greatest scientific breakthrough came in 1928 at St. Mary's Hospital, when, almost by accident, he noticed that a petri dish containing colonies of Staphylococcus aureus had been contaminated by a mold, and around the mold no staphylococcal colonies could grow. Realizing that the mold produced a substance with remarkable antibacterial properties, he identified the mold as Penicillium notatum and named the substance penicillin, publishing his findings in 1929, though at first it attracted little attention since penicillin was unstable and difficult to purify, but Fleming persisted in highlighting its enormous potential. Years later, in the early 1940s, a team at Oxford led by Howard Florey, Ernst Boris Chain and Norman Heatley successfully purified and mass-produced penicillin, transforming it into the world's first widely used antibiotic, saving countless lives during World War II and revolutionizing medicine. And for this joint work Fleming, Florey, and Chain were awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1945, with Fleming becoming a world icon, widely celebrated and knighted in 1944 by King George VI, later also receiving numerous honors, degrees, and recognition worldwide, including becoming a Fellow of the Royal Society. Despite his fame, Fleming remained a humble man, continuing his research and serving as Professor of Bacteriology at the University of London, later as Rector of Edinburgh University, while maintaining a quiet, modest personal life, having married Sarah Marion McElroy, an Irish nurse, in 1915, with whom he had one son, Robert, who later became a general medical practitioner. His first wife died in 1949, and in 1953 he married Amelia Katsori Vorekas, a Greek colleague who was also a microbiologist. In his final years, Fleming was celebrated as one of the great. Fleming served as a captain in the Royal Army Medical Corps during World War I, working in battlefield hospitals in France. He witnessed countless soldiers die not from wounds but from infections that no antiseptic could cure. This painful experience stayed with him and fueled his lifelong determination to find better ways to fight infection. After the war, he returned to St. Mary's, committed to solving the problem of bacterial resistance. In 1922, Fleming discovered lysozyme, an enzyme found in tears, saliva, and mucus that naturally killed certain bacteria. Though not effective against dangerous pathogens, it was a crucial finding because it showed the body had natural defenses against germs. This discovery gave Fleming confidence that nature itself could provide tools to fight infection, preparing the ground for his later, bigger breakthrough. September 1928 was the most important turning point in Fleming's life. While cleaning up his laboratory at St. Mary's, he noticed that a mold, later identified as Penicillium notatum, had contaminated one of his petri dishes of Staphylococcus bacteria. Around the mold, the bacteria had been destroyed, while the rest of the plate was still covered with colonies. Fleming immediately realized he had stumbled upon a powerful substance capable of killing bacteria without harming. Fleming published his findings in 1929, describing penicillin as a mold juice that killed many harmful bacteria. However, at first his discovery was overlooked. He lacked the resources and chemical expertise to purify penicillin in large amounts. For nearly a decade, Fleming's penicillin sat quietly in the scientific world, waiting for others to develop it further. In the early 1940s, a team at Oxford University led by Howard Florey and Ernst Boris Chain successfully purified penicillin and proved it could cure infections in animals and humans. By World War II, penicillin was being mass-produced and hailed as a miracle drug, saving millions of soldiers and civilians from deadly infections. Fleming's accidental discovery became the foundation of modern antibiotics. Nobel Prize and global fame. 1945, Fleming, Florey, and Chain jointly received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for the discovery of penicillin. Fleming became a world-famous figure, celebrated as the man who had introduced the age of antibiotics. 8. Later honors and legacy. 1945 to 1955, medals from universities and governments. He was hailed not only as a brilliant scientist, but also as a savior of countless lives, often called the man who changed medicine. His greatest success was not just in discovery, but in how his work revolutionized healthcare, making previously deadly infections treatable. The last years of Alexander Fleming's life were marked by worldwide recognition, public duties, and the lingering effects of age on his health. After receiving the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1945, Fleming became a global symbol of medical progress and hope. In the late 1940s and throughout the 1950s, he traveled extensively, attending international conferences, delivering lectures, and meeting political leaders, scientists, and even royalty. He was warmly received in many miracle drug that had saved millions of lives during and after the Second World War. These years, however, were not only filled with honors but also with heavy public responsibilities, as Fleming spent much of his time advocating for further medical research and the careful use of antibiotics. In his personal life, Fleming experienced both companionship and sorrow. His first wife, Sarah Marion McElroy, passed away in 1949. 3 years later, in 1953, he married Dr. Amalia Kutsuri-Vorekas, national mourning and respect. In Britain, Fleming was regarded as a national hero. His passing was marked with deep respect, as the people saw him not just as a scientist, but as the man who had saved countless lives during World War II and afterward. His discovery of penicillin had given the UK immense prestige in medical science. Recognition of his legacy. His death prompted a renewed recognition of how revolutionary his contribution was. Newspapers, universities, and medical institutions across the UK highlighted his role in transforming modern medicine. The British people celebrated him as someone who embodied innovation, humility, and service to humanity. Scientific communities tribute. The UK's scientific and medical communities paid rich tribute to him. His colleagues at St. Mary's Hospital in London, where he had worked most of his life, honored him by continuing research into antibiotics and infectious diseases. Impact on national pride. Fleming's death reminded the country of the enormous prestige his discovery had brought to Britain. At a time when the UK was recovering from the hardships of World War II and the decline of empire, Fleming's legacy stood as a source of pride, showing that Britain could still lead in science and humanitarian achievement. State recognition. Though not given a state funeral, he was buried with great honor in St. Paul's Cathedral, London.